getting closer on the hood. I've been doing a lot of mud work, trying to get it just perfect. And you know, you've seen kind of different stages using fiberglass and then getting it down to where you're just roughing it in with some Bondo. And you want to get it just as close as you can with the Bondo, even down to 80 grit. And then you're able to use a glaze coat. And you put that stuff where it's just so thin, it's like putting on instant primer. And really lets you get fine-tuned and detailed. And this one I've got the whole thing covered. I like to do the whole thing as one piece. It's hard to do one section at a time then have it come out, you know, straight. It's better, you know, I'll block this whole piece as one thing, you know. I'll take that down a little bit at a time around this whole piece. And this one I've already done that. Really fine-tuned in all these areas. You know, I even used a little tiny file in some spots right around these corners. And then after I was done, there's a couple little spots I want to touch up. And this area down here was still a little bit wavy, as well as this spot was a little bit wavy going across this way. So I did put another glaze coat right there. You know, and that'll blend into this area fine, it'll blend into this area fine, and then right up to that line. So it shouldn't be any problem getting that leveled out. I still got a glaze coat to finish off these vents here. And I want to pay some attention to this lower edge. It's uneven. This one over here is down further, and this one's kind of angled or something, so I'll put a straight edge across there and get that evened out. And I'd like to get this hood done someday. I've really underestimated the amount of hours. You know, every time I start something off, I'm wondering, okay, it should take me about this amount of time. This hood's taken me twice as much time as I thought it would. Those vents added a lot of labor. You know, the hood vent or the fender vents added a lot of labor to the package. You know, and after I get the top done, I still got to open the hood up. I got a lot of finish work I want to do underneath the hood. And I got a lot of work I want to do underneath these vents to finish that off nice and pretty. Make sure all the edges are clean, straight, free of voids, you know, ready for primer. So yeah, a lot of work to do still on this hood. Now this is the kind of a different stages I go through. Yeah, I didn't really want to turn these into a how-to video, but I've had a lot of people requesting, you know, that I show some of this stuff, so I can't show anybody how to get something straight, but you know, maybe showing some of the techniques and the stages I go through might help. And you know, this, like I said before, I want this whole thing covered. When I sand this down, you know, my dad used to tell me, when you hit metal, stop. Well, on this car, you know, fiberglass, the gel coats the metal, and when you sand that down, this glaze is going to sand at a different rate than the gel coat. So you may smooth out the Bondo, but it's going to be wavy. You know, the only way you can really get it straight is to treat that gel coat at this point in time at the finishing stage, you know, as metal when you hit that stop. And if you need to add more, or you know, grind that down, you know, with some 80 grit, put another glaze over it and get it to all come down as one without, dig it into the gel coat. So anyway, you know, when I sand this down, I want to sand this whole thing as one, and I roughed in these edges here. I didn't go down all the way, and same thing here. I just wanted to take off you know, these little ridges, get that smoothed out somewhat, and then I came down in here and got all this flattened out. So really the only thing at this point that's done is this surface and that surface down in there. Now I'm going to start sanding down this outer part, and I'll get this pretty much all the way done, and then I'll come in here and fine tune these edges here. And notice how I haven't even touched this, I haven't touched that. You know, I'm just taking care of the flat surfaces, and then the very last thing I'll go back and clean up these edges and round them off and make sure they're, you know, nice and even all the way down. You can tell these are uneven right here. It's not quite squared up yet. And I'll take a file and get down inside those corners, file that down in there. And after I primer it and stuff, I'll probably take some seam sealer and just take my finger and just put a nice skim coat of seam sealer in those corners. That way that'll be nice and flat and smooth and round in there. So yeah, I got that done. Now I'm about ready to hit this, so here we go. Alright, so I'm going to take this down and stage by stage. First stage is knocking down the edges and getting the gum off of the Bondo. So I'm always keeping that stick flat, following the contour of the car. And I'm just wanting to knock the top off of that. Just enough to get the edges down. Get the gummy stuff off of there so it doesn't clog up the sandpaper. First it's kind of choppy, but the flatter this gets, the better that block will feel, you know, level up against there, and the easier it is to flow across the contour. You know, if you're going one way and all you're hitting is one spot, you got to change direction kind of, and try and keep the whole surface contact, you know, and then always, you know, you'll see me going this way a lot, trying to keep it level, and you know, you got to hit every angle crosshatch. You know, the closer it gets to being straight, you'll see more long movements. You'll never see me work in one little spot because you'll dig a hole. You always got to treat the whole surface as one. You know, especially once I get these edges down. Some guys use a guide coat. You know, they'll use a spray paint, mist a little bit on there, and you can sand it down. You can see the valleys and ridges, but right now when it's like this, it's kind of like a guide coat, and you just want to watch those edges go down evenly. And hopefully I got this down far enough where it's not going to gum up this brand new piece of sandpaper here. That's going to be the hard part if you don't have experience. If you're building one of these on your own and you've never done body work before, a lot of that roughing in stuff a person could do, but you may have to pay somebody to do the fine tuning stuff. Good thing is you're not going to mess nothing up. Worst case, you're just going to sand it all off and put some more on. Now it's all kind of starting to come down a little better. That's when it starts sanding good. Now at this point I'm wanting pretty much all the unsanded spots to start going away evenly, so I'll go around and kind of catch up some of these spots. kind of funny, all the money I've spent on tools through the years. This one right here has made me the most money, paint stick. pretty good. Now I gotta really start paying attention to it. Make sure, you know, you're gonna see like right here, now I'm down to, just about down to the gel coat. Starting to come through here. Yes, I really want to start looking at the high spots now compared to where it's starting to break through. And still at the same time, it don't really matter because you can't sit and dig at a spot to take care of it. You got to do it all as one. And if you end up with something low and something high at the end, you got to put a little more on there. So I'll stop at this point, go over all the different angles. There's a little bit of a high spot there. Still a little high nub there. And this is kind of choppy too. I need to hit it more this way, which I will. I'll make sure this is round over here and round this way too. And it's got to follow this roundness and this roundness. So it's kind of tricky at these points in here. Get that flat down in there, flat this way, and make it all round. Still got quite a ridge here from when I put the Bondo on. I left a lot there compared to the rest was thin, so got to focus on that some more. Feeling pretty good. Make sure it's nice and straight up this way. Now if you can't feel that with your hand, a good trick is like to take a rag. This works good. Put a rag on there. And man, you can really feel it. You can really feel every little void, every little wave when you use that rag. Works pretty good. Now at this point, good idea to get a brand new fresh piece of sandpaper. It's not going to ball up anymore at this point. And that nice fresh piece will take off the ridges real good for you. Really want to pay attention to needs to come down even now. Much more so. You got to take care of any high spots. Without getting down into that gel coat. The smoother you put that stuff on, the better. Then you don't have to do that. And they make different types of glaze. They make a glaze called Dolphin, which is really thin, and that stuff is literally like a coat of primer. This stuff goes on a little bit thicker. You can put it on really thin and you still got something to sand. This stuff pretty good. So that's getting close. I'll get that finished up. I got this all smoothed out good, cleaned up the edges, and came out pretty good. So now I'm gonna clean up this area here. I've already done the back side, so I thought I'd just show this. And I just get the edge down in there and use my stick. You can kind of watch the area that's already flat. You can see the scratches go a certain way, so you want to kind of lay that down. Get that down into that corner down in there. And this is one of the only times you don't want to lay the stick flat. I'm not trying to get that part flat with this. That actually kind of rounds in there, so I have that kind of lifted up and angled, so it's digging down in here. And you don't want to just go crazy and dig a gouge in here, so you gotta be careful. Watch it, as it goes away. And then kind of one movement, once you get it close down in there. Kind of like that. And that comes out pretty good. Just like that, and I still haven't hit that back edge or these edges here. And that'll be next. I'll make sure that, that should be coming right to a point. If you got this flat, you got that flat, there should be a straight edge all the way across there. And as you bring that down, that's what you're looking for, is make sure that's a straight edge, and then once you get it to be straight, that's when you round it off. And then on this back edge here, I'll go ahead and do this one. So there's just one line there now, so then that's when I'll come here. Round that off. Then it's nice, and got a nice edge here, a nice edge there. Now on this part, I'll take the back edge of my paint stick. I'm just barely looking for that gel coat to come through. Again, as soon as you see that gel coat, stop. So you want the Bondo to come down. all the valleys will be gone. That should be already pretty straight, unless I nicked it with the grinder or something, which I have in a couple spots, so that's why I'm being careful. And then this part down here, better to use a stick down here too than trying using your hand and cleaning that up, because the stick is going to keep that edge flat. There's some spots underneath that are overhanging, and I'll take my I got a burr that's rounded. I'll stick that underneath there and go across that back edge and take those little burrs off back there. Same principle, get this edge flat, get that edge flat, and then you want this all. Now I'm getting the lights in there, and first thing I did before I even tried to drill the holes for the back, for the adjusters, I just stuck the light in there and kind of tried to point it, what seemed to be in the right direction, and carved out the hole little by little, just enough so that thing would poke in through there. Carved out the inside hole, leaving the outside hole, so if you hold that thing in the right angle as you're trying to poke it through the back side, then you know where to carve it out. Yeah, and then once you get that to where it pokes through that hole, aim it in the right spot, put the adjusters in there, get them adjusted so it's touching the surface of the bucket back there, and that's going to give you an exact spot where you want to mark the holes to drill for those clips that push in there. And then once you get those clips in there, you're going to have to back the adjusters off a little bit, and I didn't stick them all the way in there, I'm just holding it there because I already did the other side. I hold them from the back once I get the clips in there, and I'm looking at this circle around the light and see it's got more of a gap on this side and it's tight here. So, I'm looking for a nice even gap all the way around there, as close as I can. So I hold that there and kind of take a pen, see where I want to cut it out, take it out, and then go little by little, and eventually I come up with a nice round hole. I did that on the other side. I'll do it for this one. So anyway, here is there's what it looks like when it's sitting in there. Somewhat of a nice circle around the outside of it. Then you got that space in the middle. I was noticing in the manual on the Gen 1 these headlight buckets were different, but they have foam in the middle. I'm almost wondering if I should fill that with foam, trim that out nice, and that way when that thing sticks in there it'll seal it up and no dust will get inside of here. So I'll probably end up doing that. Finishing off that edge, sand it down, and that edge will be painted, and then put the foam from the back side of that edge. So this is how I did the cover. Nice and even all the way around, and yeah, basically just kind of guessed here, or actually halved this distance, and kind of from here to here, half that distance, and then here to here, half of that, and half of that. And it's a good place because it wants to hold it down everywhere, at least in those spots. since mine's going to be black, I'm probably going to have a black painted ring around here. Anyways, I'm going to get some flatter surface screws, which are black, so that'll blend in real good there. Anyways, you need to cut that down so it sets inside this lip, you know, so it's sitting down flat everywhere, but just barely. And then you want to get it nailed down with the screws. Now it's not going to move anywhere, obviously. I put some tape on here and took the edge of my fingernail and just walked around that edge and made a crease in that tape all the way around that body line. And then I got some fine line tape here, which I'll put around that line I just scored. And then what I did on the other side, I just took my pen and colored on the back side of that tape, and then took my razor blade, cut that loose, unscrewed it, peeled that tape off, and then it showed me a nice line which would perfectly match that edge. And then I just ground it down close to where I want it, of course. Put it back on, check it, make sure it's fine. And after you get it real close where you want it, then switch to like some 80 grit sandpaper with you know, a block, and go around that edge, and that takes off the little grinder marks. And then switch to a finer sandpaper and go around it again, you know, eventually where you can just end up polishing the edge. And then those will be done. And just like that. So I already got that drawn on there. And then pull this off. And I had went around and it was hard for me to see in this dark garage, that line, so I just kind of poked a pen in that groove. It was easier to see. And then on this side of that line, it's nice and crisp, and that'll be my guide to grind down. I won't grind all the way to that. I don't want that much gap, but it'll be close to it. So that'll look good. Getting the fog lights in, I made this little bracket right here. Stand that off because of the bolts that hold the hood on the hinges. Like right here, so it would have been in the way, so I want to stand that off. And that way I can take the fog light loose and have the hood, you know, different from each other, and they won't interfere. And I'll get some bolts from the store. I'm gonna drill out the holes for the splitter, and I'll install some nut certs from the back side of this lip right here, and I'll have to trim that down probably. Follow that contour, make it look nice. Looks like I gotta trim this edge down here. It's pretty uneven. Not quite up to where it's molded for that corner. Chipped up quite a bit. Which kind of bums me out, but I guess that's the way it goes. So yeah, I'll cut that back, make that look nice. Got my screen bent for the intake hole there for the radiator. Today's a snow day. Stayed home from work today. Getting quite a storm. Yeah, I figured out a screen for the vent. I took some expanded metal, trimmed it down to fit the vent, and I took some like shelving brackets, just some 90-degree brackets, and bent them over a piece of square stock, which made it look like this, and then ground that down real good and glass that, and that'll give me a place to push a fastener in there. And you know, that space that's in between the plate and the hood, I'll be able to put like a charcoal filter for an air cleaner, air filter for a home, you know, and I'll put that in between there. I'll sandwich that in there. That way, you know, I won't get dirt, rocks, debris, crap like that blowing up through those vents. And it should give a nice finished look. Everything else is going to be black. This is all going to be coated. This will be coated. So this will all be the same color, all be black. I'm getting the, oh, what do you call them, covers, splash guards, rock guards for the headlights, fender brace. Just kind of a guess where it goes, and want to make sure it doesn't hit the tire. Want to make sure you got clearance behind your headlight here. And there's the other side. Got that one sitting up there done. Yeah, good enough. And I'll coat that panels with that bed liner material. Same thing as I'm going to do underneath the hood with. And I added a couple brackets here to my setup. You know, it's fine that it braces the fender here. Fine that it protects the headlight, but this whole side is just flopping in the wind, so I wanted to make some brackets. Hold that down. Something like that. So now that's in there. Solid. Should be good. And now I got to reposition my shocks here. When I shut that, they end up coming way back here. There's going to be aluminum right there, which seals that, so I got to move those. Also making sure it's not going to interfere with the shocks and control arms. So that's what's next. Well, now I'm getting some of the body closeouts done. Got that piece in here where I want it, and this piece up here that fits up against the body with the bulb seal up there. Had to do some trimming, and I'll end up using some kind of seam sealer up there. I want to try and seal that cockpit as much as I can. Places for air to get in everywhere. And I got a couple more pieces on the closeouts to do. I'm still on a snow day. It's been pretty wild out here. It's been about a 1/4 inch of freezing rain over the top of a foot of snow, and it's not been good. 24 hours straight. I bet every 30 seconds there's been a tree out there breaking. I just heard another one. No joke, for 24 hours you stand out here, 360 degrees around me. I'm in the middle of the woods, and trees are just snapping everywhere. So it's been pretty wild. today's supposed to melt, so see how much of it does melt. I would not want to be out there today. See if we can hear a tree break. Did you hear that? One just broke. There goes one. Two more. Lots of branches falling. You can hear all the ice coming off the branches. There's another tree. There's one on both sides of me. There's one over there. There's another one. There's one over there. That's a big one. There's one over here. There's one. There's a crack. There's a crack. Another crack. There it is. Pretty much done. Got the splitter on there. Fog lights in there. Sitting right in the middle of the hole. Pretty much. And got the headlights mounted in there where they're going to fit. Covers, the vents. Looks like I got some oil on there. I don't like that. And I moved these shocks down. You know, the metal they give you for this part right here. It's got a little cutout for that, but I want that all the way sealed across there, so I'm going to make a different piece which goes all the way across, and that way it doesn't blow stuff up here, you know, onto the windshield and stuff. So that'll be good. And I got some of the closeout panels in there, the screens over the vents. You know, the stuff for my little stoppers that I made, which is adjustable. Screw those in to screw them out. Put these closeout panels on. I put some braces back here also. Bonded a couple of brackets to the fiberglass, so now that's in there solid, just like I did on these ones. So that's good. And that's pretty much it for the hood. I think I'll cover it up so it doesn't get no more oil on it and crap. And I think it's ready for primer. A couple more little things I gotta do. I'm still waiting for the part of the wiper right there where the wiper hooks onto. I don't know what you call it. but I didn't find one in my box, so Factory 5 is sending me another one. It's supposed to be here by now, but of course the weather has that messed up, but I need to get that in there. Make sure I got the clearance for my wiper in here. It's going to be pretty tight. I might have to shave that lip back a bit. You know, and if it don't fit, I don't know what to say, because that's where my hood wants to be. And I'm not going to be changing it, so I got to figure out something. You know, because if I lift up the back or lift up the front, you know, I'm not going to have the round circle anymore. There's so many things that won't fit. So it's getting to the point now where you know, when you get this far, if you got to change anything, it's kind of a bummer. Major ordeal. So yeah, unless I think of something else, I think that's about ready for primer. That's going to look pretty good down in there with those screens. Of course, I might put some that filter in there, keep dust from blowing up in there, brake dust and that. So next thing I'm going to do, I think, is tackle this hatch. Get that thing to fit. Then at the same time I'll get the roof scoop on there and do that. And then that's going to leave me with the back. Putting the splitter on. I mean the diffuser in the back, and then I'll fit these closeout panels in the back here. Make sure those are trimmed and ready to go so I can coat them with that bed liner material. And slap it together once I get the chassis made. So anyway, moving right along. I like that Gen 2 nose. I like how the front of it comes up in the center like that. And I like the vents in the hood for the radiator. Looks pretty good.